Oops, sorry.
This is a special city commission meeting for Thursday, March the 3rd at 10 a.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Litchfield,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Ganeva,
Here.
Commissioner Arias.
Here.
Commissioner Terry.
Here.
Are there any considerations of changes or deletions to the agenda?
No.
There being none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Ganeva.
Yes.
Commissioner Arias.
Yes.
Commissioner Terry.
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield.
Yes. First on the agenda is ordinances and resolution. This is resolution 2022-06, the second quarter budget adjustment request for DFA reporting. Rochelle or Mark or,
Good evening, Mayor.
okay,
Good morning. Thanks for everybody taking time out to have a special meeting. So this is the the second quarter budget adjustments that I have to submit to DFA. The adjustments totaled $796,536, and that was favorable. So when we started our fiscal year, we started off favorable at $155,759, and we are now favorable $952,295. And again, this is only the budget, so it's not the actuals right now.
Okay.
Are there any questions on any of the budget adjustments?
Let me see, I'm looking at this, I don't understand it yet, in any way, so I just got it now, that it came to work.
This one. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I had asked her a question, so
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I did, go ahead.
I was looking at this budget, I'm still a little,
So the attachment that you have, this is actually from the DFA system that I have to submit. The problem is that whenever our line numbers are in our system, I have to basically crosswalk them to their numbers. So I have to pull them over to theirs. So they're not exactly the same, but what exact question are you having about the budget?
well, that was number one. Number two, the fact is, I was looking at the emergency medical services.
Mhm.
Is that what we have right now, is 89,000 in cash?
That's their beginning cash for this fiscal year.
Yeah, and
The
we're in
reason why
negative?
they're in a negative right there is because of the ambulance. We have gotten the reimbursement now, but as of December, we had not. So it affected their budget because of that payment.
Okay, so that's one of the.
Because we had to pay it and then get reimbursed.
So what is it at now?
I don't know right now what it's at, because I'm only
What
into December.
Are you on, Commissioner?
The very first
So
thing.
that would be around,
Yeah, 353.
And we have a real problem.
it's on the third line down.
Mhm.
What's your turn? Where it says emergency medical, okay,
Which we did receive that reimbursement in February.
we did, yeah. But as of
Okay.
December, it wasn't in, so I have to report as of December right now.
And the special revenue stands for,
So the special revenue comprises of, it's the convention center, the 0772, which is the capital outlay infrastructure money, the Hoffman Fund
the Huffman Hills.
is in there. And some infrastructure, just a second, I'll look at this real quick. Oh, and the economic development is in there and convention center.
But that fund, that's what we paid them with, isn't it?
Is that what we paid who with? The
The,
economic development?
uh-huh,
Yes. So, but remember, I have to combine a bunch of funds for DFA.
okay.
So we can look at it more when we get to the actuals if you'd like, and we can talk about those more on that side, just because then we would be talking more about our line numbers versus the DFA side.
Okay.
The DFA, again, is very confusing because of the way I have to combine things on their side. They
Yeah.
require certain things.
Well, that's why I was looking at that. Okay, well then. go
In
to our
fact,
numbers.
just to give you a heads up, so the taxes rev, the legislature de-earmarked all the gross receipts tax. And so when they did that, Tax and Rev changed the way they send their reports to us on the breakdown of the GRT. And so then DFA came back and said, okay, now we want you guys to move them into these lines and report it this way. So I had to go all the way back to July and redo everything on the GRT to make it match for DFA.
Okay.
It's very time consuming
So
when they
then
make
we're
those
gonna go-
changes.
We're gonna go to our report?
Am I gonna go through all the reports?
No, this is
Oh.
the hours, the one you just talked that you have up to date.
Are you talking about the budget?
Because, on page, 4753, I thought we did away with the animal, we kept the animal,
Well, that's on the actuals to do and wait and talk about the
Okay.
actuals.
yeah, I thought
Okay.
we were just on.
Oh, no, we're still on the budget, so if we can approve the budget, then we can go into actuals and we'll
Okay.
talk more
Because that's
detail on
ideal.
one-on-one. Okay.
So those are the questions I had, especially the fact that, I don't know.
Basically, your budget adjustment is a transfer from the general fund and the lodger's tax to the other line items that you have in that transfer column.
On,
900 and some thousand.
oh, up here, yeah, so it's a transfer, most of them are from the general fund to other lines. Some of them are, let me find the one I'm needing. Like the water department transfers into, like debt service, they also transfer it to the lab. So it's not all from the general fund, but altogether, they have the total to zero. So the ins and the outs on the transfers.
All the transfers on the fourth column, correct?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Cash investments, revenues, transfers.
Any other questions?
No, I'm just trying, no, I just got it now that I come to work, so I'm in Judy.
And we can go into more detail on the actuals.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution 2022-06 for the budget adjustment.
So moved, Mayor.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Villanueva,
Yes.
Commissioner Arias,
Yes.
Commissioner Terry,
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Webb.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next is resolution 2022-07. This is the financials for second quarter for DFA, reporting on our actuals for the second quarter.
Okay, so this one is all of the actual revenues we received and all of the actual expenditures that we have paid out as of the end of December again. So between what we've received and what we've spent, we are sitting, excuse me, favorable at $2,105,738. So Commissioner Moya, now we can go in, what was your question?
Hold on a second, I'm
Okay.
just trying to look at something back and forth.
Okay.
Where were you at? I mean, what were you gonna ask? I'm sorry.
Well, you had a question about,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, was it animal control or?
Yeah, I was a little, I thought we had cut that budget a little bit, but it's still at 150, and they only spend 21.65%.
Correct.
What page was that on?
So he's on 47 of 50.
Now, we're
And
looking
he's
at,
up here
Yeah.
under animal control.
Okay.
So for, just real quick, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner Cherry, so these are each one of the funds, I believe, when you have that, you got the budget, so.
out of that, we have only utilized, like I said, 21%, and this budget expires now June the 30th, isn't it? Number
Correct.
30.
Yes.
And you still have an active of what?
So on animal control, they. So right now, they're favorable, the 124,626. So if we ended right here today,
Yeah,
that
that's
would be what was left over from their budget.
Okay, and then if you look at the police department,
Uh-huh.
they have 41% only percentage that they have used, and it's kind of low for the fact is that we're looking at 3 more months.
It is low, and I'm not, the only thing that I can contribute it to is, and I'm not being mean to anybody, but what I am saying is that if you remember last fiscal year, I believe they were already 50% of their budget in overtime salaries in the first quarter of last fiscal year. And right now their overtime is only at 60%, so they're just a little bit higher than the 50 where we would be. That's the only thing I can contribute it to. When
Way
you're
I
just
look at
watching
it,
their
that's really
spending,
good.
it is good,
Yeah,
it's very good.
it is.
It's very good that,
It's a 6 months.
No, I
6 months.
understand what's going on, but I'm also looking at the fact is when I saw the salaries, it's something that I was looking at. And we remember, we did not give the department, the police department a raise. So, it's gonna be a little positive here. We're gonna be looking at that more serious this year because they seem to be having, but we still have to use all this money and we're lacking police, aren't we? It's not a full capacity right now, is it?
I'm not sure if they are or not.
I don't think so.
Chief,
No, we're not at full capacity yet, but we do have two applicants and one that we're looking to hire.
One that what?
they're looking to
One that
hire.
we're hire.
So again, this is only through the end of December, so that's not factoring this third quarter that we're in currently, so that's not bad. That's about where you want to see your numbers at. You don't want to be.
Exactly, less than 50%. I'm
Right.
sorry, that's the way I look.
So if you look at the attachment that I gave you, you're exactly correct. So if we're looking at the percent used, we would want to see everybody to be at 50%,
That's right.
because that would be half the year. So most of these departments are below, below the 50%, which is good for our numbers. Most of them are also because, for example, in the police, you're short positions. Animal control has savings because the former animal control officer retired. So we had personnel savings there.
Better management of the departments, that's a
That
good thing. The other thing to keep in mind when we're talking about these numbers, like you said, with animal control specifically, that was vacant until just recently, since last month. So there's not going to be any activity there. But again, it's not a bad thing. When you start the year in a deficit, we got to make up somewhere. So all these little percentages that we save, make sure that we end up favorable at the end of the year.
I mean, when we're looking at the museums, we're looking at this budget, and 45% is used. What does that include in this budget? Does this include all museums or just one?
Just ours,
Ours.
the historical.
I don't mean it's ours. The organization runs it. We don't run it. We only own the property.
We run it.
We own the
It's our
property,
staff.
we maintain
Mhm.
it, we have
It's our
staff.
staff.
We'll do the same thing with the convention center.
What do you mean?
They're housed in our building. We pay the utilities. We do most of the work around it. Where are we not getting adequate numbers then?
I don't understand what your question. Are we talking the museum or the convention center?
Both.
Okay,
You're saying this is only for the museum. But then why don't we have one for the other ones?
the convention center has its own fund. It's in 0253. So I'm in that, page 49 of 53.
Right,
So it's on-
right.
Well, we thought that was discussed, where we were maintaining the employee at the historical museum, but we didn't approve for them to have another one anywhere else, correct?
Correct. That was my,
That was the only one we were providing?
And it's part-time, right?
yes.
You see, this is where we get in trouble. We have one favor to one museum, but not the others, and then they all get a little character there. Okay. Okay. There was something on corrections, but I can't remember what it was. Yeah, here's the correction. On the correction, we have, the 10,000, is that correct, for, prisoner costs?
So that's the budget.
Yeah, and what does that go into?
What does that go into?
What do we pay with it, the 10,000?
We don't pay anything with it right now.
Okay, so, yeah, because I know we're not.
So we had a bunch of money left over and built up from this fund, and we utilized that money to redo the offices for the judge and the court clerk.
So they have used only 16% of it.
We used to pay for the
Yeah,
prisoner costs and somehow that changed with the county and I'm not sure how that all worked out.
Sure, it used to be a JPA and the city paid the county 54,000 a year.
no, 48,000. It was on.
50, approximately
Mhm.
a year for prisoner costs. And back a few years ago, under a previous administration, city quit paying the correction fees.
Right.
And the county agreed to do that to help EMS.
No, the county didn't agree, we just stopped paying. I was there in the commission. You never agreed. The county.
Well, we're not gonna argue about that,
No,
but
but I
anyway.
mean, it makes it look like it's good, but the problem was we were in a big deficit at the EMS and we couldn't even afford to pay the county. And the county never agreed to it. We stopped paying, that's all it was. I made the motion, how you call it, so don't make it look like the county was so supportive, we wasn't. Anyway,
Anyway, this is a good tool for setting the new budget.
it is, but you also have to look at, but it wasn't because of EMS. I mean, we got it out, it wasn't because of that. Because that EMS is a lot more expensive than the jail.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry. You still have some money in the recreation, you got that capital outlay for the roof.
We did not.
What happened?
I thought you said we did. It made the list, but it was not approved. So either we didn't have support from our representatives, the legislators, or the governor didn't sign it in, but no, that wasn't guaranteed, it was just on the list. I say that we applied for it, and it was on the preliminary list, but it didn't make the final cut.
And our lobbyists, do very good. Okay, thank you. That's about all I have here.
With the dispatch, that new JPA that was passed last week, is there gonna be any difference in our current budget from that?
And I
Yeah,
believe that
it'll be
takes effect in July.
It'll take effect in July, and the actual budget hasn't been discussed, that was just the percentages.
Okay.
So there's a good chance, based on what we've discussed, is we'll actually pay less next year than we did this year.
Let me ask you a question, why is the golf in a negative on page 53?
On what page?
53.
That is that's the golf capital, so that's the money that we received from the golf sheds. And it's in a negative because, actually,
what
it's
page
big,
is that on?
page 49 and 50, if you're looking at the bottom.
I see it.
So we've only received 1,925 as of December for the golf sheds. They start in January, Cornelia?
Right.
So, we should see the revenue starting to come in. They owe a loan to Lodgers Tax, and so I've already hit their expense for that loan. And that's why they're in a negative. They don't have enough revenue right now to offset that cost.
But it'll start picking up now that the weather's getting warmer.
Well, then once
Yeah.
they start,
Golf
paying
sheds.
for their golf sheds, yes.
And then Main Street is that the donation we give, or the 750, is that what they grant is, or what?
That's for their grant for this year.
So we're the fiscal agency, is that what it is?
Yes.
So we're,
All that money comes to us and we pay it back out.
so we're the fiscal agency, okay.
That USDA loan on the bottom of page 50, that is for the Chaparral Apartments.
No, that USDA loans is for the water and the wastewater loans that we have had for like
We got it, remember?
50 years.
Was it the one we worked with, that we got a better deal?
No,
That's the new one. Yeah, that's a different one. These loans have been
Old.
here
Yeah.
for years
15, 20
and,
years at least.
it's still upside down. It's really bad. There's no way to get out of them.
Okay. that's
Where's
about
the payday loan, huh?
it. Okay, that's mostly what I have questions.
Any others?
Any other questions?
How are we sitting on the loan for the chaperones?
So right now, what was the dollar amount? I can't remember the actual dollar amount anymore.
For the loan,
The one that that's outstanding, what do we think, it's like
I
500,000?
was gonna say about $500,000.
Something.
What's that?
Yeah, we talked about the other day, and that's what you guys reported.
But that's not the loan payment, that's the total leverage right
So the way that loan works, my understanding is that whatever money the
Okay.
Chaparral Apartments takes in and they get their stipends, it's somehow already taken off before they get their money. So
And then
we
the
don't
city-
actually make a payment.
Actually has revenue of about $5,000 from that, I'm guessing.
Did we even get any of that? I don't think we
We
get all
do
that
not get any
goes,
other.
Nothing,
Okay.
No, the city gets nothing
we
from
get
it.
washed out. It gets washed out. And the loan payment is so low, it's stretched out so far, it's barely been paid down. That's why I worry, because when that loan term comes up, then we will be responsible, because there won't be no grant funds. Right now, it's subsidized through grants.
Well, a lot of it is subsidized from the federal government subsidy of, what is it, the eco housing, where you wind up getting the payment out of, the federal government for the stipend for the people who don't qualify for the remainder. I've got an apartment, $600, and you have very low income. I have one right now that's paying only like $30, so the federal government subsidizes. And that's where the payment's coming from, HUD, more than anything else. And that's what we have been doing, the payment. Remember when we requested, and we still request those financials from them. We need to keep an eye on it. Just because we did away with public housing doesn't mean we don't want to see those. But that's where they're getting. The payment has come out of the payment of the rent subsidized by the federal government.
Okay, are there
So
any other?
actually, it puts the city at a very low risk of ever not having the money to pay. As long as you have people in some condition,
But
income,
the loan comes due in 2032
yeah, well.
and they've had that loan since
90s?
But that was,
the 90s and it's still
the last time we saw
$500,000.
the last time we saw the budget, there was some money in reserves in there.
Are you talking about the chaparrals or are you
Yeah.
talking about housing?
No, chaparrals. I'm not talking about, housing had an 800,000 before we turned it over to them. Remember on the budget, they gave us the last time, I think it was about 100,000 or something.
I'm not sure I have to see it again.
It's been good. You know, they're cool all the time.
And that loan comes due in 10 years.
About 10 years.
Better start saving some pennies.
I plan on being here.
Well, the whole deal is, that's why we have to get the financials so that we can accurately plan long-term on making sure that loan is paid off like it should be, the way it was designed to be. And we might have to increase it because they are making the income okay there. Okay, they're 100% capacity. Okay, that's all I have.
Commissioner Cherry, you had a question on the actuals?
No, I
No.
just have a couple of questions.
Oh, okay, go
That
ahead.
I should have asked before. What is the Hoffman? I know there's no
We have no
activity.
idea.
It's been floating in the air. We researched, I have no clue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't either, I'm sorry.
I've asked previous city managers, I've asked previous finance directors, I've asked the auditors.
And it's been there forever. And everybody asks that question, nobody knows.
And
And every
the
month when you have to
water,
do a bank statement
the
and receive 2
money
cents of
infrastructure
interest.
here.
The Ute Water, is it the 1/8 or is it the one that we charge for the golf course fees for the water?
I'm not sure I understand what the question
What
is.
page is
Oh,
that?
the Ute Water reservation tax. The city had a tax. A few years ago, they changed it
The
to
2.4
where you could
million.
use a percentage of it, right? That's
Correct.
what.
Okay, yeah, now I understand. I thought you were talking something.
And you want to know where it is? So
I was, yeah, is that the infrastructure capital GRT?
so that,
Because that is a GRT.
so I guess we're talking about 2 different things. So yes, there was the money that was set aside for the U water and
Yes.
then it went away. I'm not
No.
sure which one got repealed, but the 2.4 million that came out of that U water it's just sitting to the side. It's not being utilized for anything right now.
Right, you had to,
was-
the reserve for the reservation is still there. But a few years ago, they changed the GRT. But this GRT is still there.
Yes, correct, because.
Yes, but I'm not sure which
But
one
it's
where
still
it went.
called the Ute Water tax or the GRT, or the,
So previously it was specifically earmarked just for the Ute Lake,
Yes.
but after that, it was pretty much opened up where it can be utilized for infrastructure. So it's not just painted in a corner where it's just,
Right. What was in there stayed in there.
yes, what was in there stood in there specifically for that purpose, and from that date moving forward, now we can utilize that for other stuff other than just Ute Lake.
So my question is on page 51 at the top, what is that infrastructure capital?
So that one actually is, yes, that would be the one.
That's
That'd be the one, okay. Thank you. And so basically that just goes to general fund now.
So so again, this number is low right now, because like I said earlier, when Tax and Rep changed the way they reported it to us, and then DFA wanted me to also change the way I report it to them, I had to just move it all back up here to general fund, and now I'm gonna have to go back and redistribute it to make sure that I'm
I'm sorry, I'm
meeting what the
asking some-
percentages are for each one of the distributions, but I
Some
didn't have
stupid
time to do
questions.
that. No, it's
I
fine,
just,
it's fine.
I'm trying to read these to make sense.
No, I know. It's, so yes, as of right here on this report, it is in general fund, but I'm going to move it back to where it needs to be because our ordinance says that's where it goes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Now, on this infrastructure funds, could we utilize some of these for the streets at least?
So we utilize those for different large capital projects, depending on what we have to have to match. We sometimes will save that for emergency type stuff, right?
We save it for emergencies. Sometimes we use that money to offset the match for the grants when they redo the streets and the water. And most of the time, that offset for the streets share comes from that fund. To
I
offset the
remember
match.
you bringing some before, but
That or utilities.
And I think we're gonna utilize some of the money to pay off one of the tanks, isn't it, correct? So that we don't have another loan outstanding.
we just keep a regular reserve like you need, don't we? I mean,
So in this particular fund, I wanna say we have about 500,000 or 600,000, but the 2.4 million from
it's
you
the one we
is
don't touch. and
Yes.
that's right.
sitting to the side.
Any other questions?
I think I stirred it up enough, Mayor. I'm sure.
All
But thank you, Michelle.
You're learning, it's okay.
right, I would entertain a motion to accept resolution 2022-07 for our financials for DFA reporting.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-07.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Arias?
Yes.
Commissioner Cherry?
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moya? Commissioner Gamera?
See.
Thank you.
Sure. Good job. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cherry?
Yes.
Mayor Litchfield?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moya? Commissioner Gamera? Commissioner Arias?
Yes.
Michelle, thank you for letting me,
If you need a chance, Mark.
No, they're good questions.